Good evening. Welcome to the Vol Bros. I am Rustin. This is not Evan. Evan is on vacation. And so our friend Jordan Moore has decided to fill in tonight and help us talk through Mississippi State. Very excited to jump in and talk about Mississippi State. I think there's a lot of interesting kind of storylines to this game. It's funny to see how active you all are in the chat long before we ever even go live. It's crazy how much you all jump in. So as always, we are sponsored by the Ooltewah Club. We're very thankful to them for their sponsorship, and we are very proud to be a part of the Believe Podcast Network. Before we jump in, just say hello to some people here. Slims, good to see you. Glad you're here. Stingray, glad to have you. Mississippi Vol, good to see you again. Great advice there. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I would like to point out to everyone that I do not ever handle the technical aspects of this. So I think the fact that we actually started the show correctly deserves an attaboy. Nothing messed up, which was a minor miracle. Jonathan, good to see you. Same for you, Elijah. Yeah, Elijah said Evan had to get away from us. Yeah, he's actually missing tonight and Sunday. So the odds of me getting this to start correctly 2 consecutive shows are very, very minimal. Ironically, Evan's out of town and could not join either night because of things he has going on. Jordan and I are both actually out of town. Neither of us are in our homes either. We're both in hotel rooms. And ironically, I'm in the hotel that Jordan's going to be in next week, which is a very weird irony. Let's see here. Mr. Osborne, good to see you. Elijah asked how it feels for me to take Evan's spot. Again, if this thing goes off without a hitch and this thing it ends correctly and the video downloads correctly and everything uploads to all the different platforms correctly, then I will have arrived as a production person. I might even put it on my resume that I'm now a producer. Matt's excited about the fact that I'm forced to talk tonight. Yep, that's going to be an interesting one as well. Clay, good to see you. Rhonda, glad to have you with us. Oh, this hotel chair is not forgiving. Jonathan asked or said, I know we're talking about football, but how do y'all feel about Ruby being back on the team? It's a good question. Before we get into football, Jordan and I were actually just talking about basketball off air. Jordan, what are your thoughts on the Ruby Whitehorn situation?
Yeah, I think it's big that she, is going to remain on the team. She's back in practice. Sounds like from what Caldwell said the other day that she did her punishment, she did her time, and now she's back with the team. So that's encouraging. And I'm always a fan for trying to keep kids on the team as much as you possibly can. They're young kids, they're going through life lessons. You want to help them out as much as you can. As far as basketball, she's going to be an integral part of the team this year. She was last year, so it's big to have that person there, the guard there, the depth there. And as we were talking about before we came on, they're extremely talented, and the ceiling is very high for the team. And having her there is just going to keep that ceiling pretty high.
I loved how Kim Caldwell handled that question in the press conference because the person who asked it was clearly digging for gossip. Like they wanted some stuff to print. And I loved how she handled it very, very succinctly. She said, we've handled it. She did some things for us internally. She's done what she needed to do. Now she's back. That told me a lot about Kim Caldwell as a coach.
Yeah.
She hinted at some of the things you just said. She said, sometimes these players have things in their lives that we have to help them through. Another way of saying that was right now, Tennessee might be better for Ruby than Ruby is for Tennessee. But Kim Caldwell recognized that. She saw a player who made mistakes and they did some internal things to make her own that and take responsibility for it. But she also saw an opportunity to restore a kid that possibly needed the university more than it needed her. So I thought she handled that extremely well.
I also think in these situations too, and we've seen it multiple times, you see why Danny White liked Caldwell in the interview process. Her maturity and the way she handles things is, for her lack of, D1 experience. I mean, what, Marshall for a year, Tennessee for a year, like she's matured well beyond her coaching experience, and you see that coming out in those situations.
Yep. Mississippi Ball said he was kind of surprised to hear about Ruby being back, especially this early. John Watts said Coach Caldwell is awesome. So let's back up a little bit. He said he was surprised to see her back this early. Remember, they've been on campus most of the summer, if not all of the summer, and almost every day up until now. So they have a lot of opportunities. Like if you want to dole out a punishment, you have the time to dole out punishment, and you can do some pretty stringent things behind closed doors that people just never have access to see. Mr. Osborne said, "Great to see everyone. Missed a few shows last week. Glad to be here." Matt is a big fan of Coach Caldwell. And all right. Matt's already taking shots at me. He said, "Me no like he needs to be here because I need help." Um, so, all right. This Saturday, Vol football heads into Stark Vegas. Jordan's actually going to be in the stadium. His ears will be ringing for a week after. He'll be hearing cowbells in his sleep. So let's talk about what kind of our expectations are for this game. Jordan, going into Stark Vegas, what are you kind of expecting to see?
I mean, offensively, that's where I want to start. I expect to continue to see the diversity of formations that we've seen, especially against Syracuse and Georgia. New things that they've not put out of the playbook yet that maybe they installed in the spring and the summertime. I'm expecting to see the same. I'm expecting Joey to play the same as he has, meaning getting the ball out quick, understanding where he's going with the football. Not taking unnecessary sacks. He's been very good at being able to do that. And then running the football, I mean, that's a Heupel staple. And I think this offensive line is really good. And as we saw, and we'll talk about this probably later on, but, Arizona State pretty much ran the ball at will against Mississippi State in the second half when that's what they went to. So I think we should be able to run the football. And so offensively, that's what I'm expecting to see. Defensively, apparently Moy's going to be back. I think that's going to be very vital to the defensive line. It's an extra body that now you can put snaps on. And he's a bigger, thicker body also than some of those guys that have been playing. So he should be able to hold up on the inside a lot better. Hopefully we can figure out some of the miscues as far as our secondary goes, when they're playing zone. They've left some holes open a few times this year when they're playing zone. So hopefully we can see some of that stuff cleaned up, because I do think that Mississippi State does have a couple of weapons and a quarterback that, if you do allow some of those miscommunications happen or holes open up, that they can take advantage of those and find some explosive plays.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, all of that. For me personally, what I'm looking to see, I want to see us bully them. And I talked about this a little bit Sunday night. They have played 3 bad teams and 1 average team. And before anybody starts going, no, Arizona State's better, no, they're not. Arizona State lost a lot coming into this year, and they did not replace it. So, I would, for all the people saying, Arizona State, I would ask you this. Who is Rayleigh Brown and Kanye Udo? All of you in the chat. Who is Kanye Udo and Rayleigh Brown? Those are the 2 running backs at Arizona State who carried the ball 41 times for 222 yards against Mississippi State. Okay. Neither of those guys would be in our top 3. Okay. I'm just being as candid as I can be. Neither of them would beat out anybody in our top 3. So if those guys can carry the ball for over 200 yards against Mississippi State, and none of them would start for us or even be in the rotation, I want to see us come out and just be hyper physical right off the bat and send the message that no, you're still Mississippi State. You're still building a program. You are not where we are right now. And we're just going to manhandle you all night. And I think that's what they'll do. The other thing I'll point out against Mississippi State, Sam Levitt was absolutely awful. I mean, just terrible. He went 10 for 22 for 82 yards and 2 interceptions. Let me say that again. 10 for 22 for 82 yards passing and 2 interceptions. Okay. Joey Aguilar ain't going 10 for 22 for 82 yards. And in spite of how awful Sam Levitt played, they still almost beat Mississippi State and probably should have won the game.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll point out that I think is a huge glaring thing for Mississippi State right now, they are averaging 10 penalties a game for over 90 yards of penalties. Okay. That's against 3 bad teams and an average team. They're that undisciplined and they make that many mistakes. Averaging, not we had 10 penalties against Arizona State. They are averaging 10 penalties a game. They're one of the most penalized teams in America. You know, teams who are under pressure, teams who are getting bullied, teams who, feel outmanned, start getting crazy. They start reverting to bad habits. I would not be surprised at all if we see them get 15 penalties on Saturday. I think if we can put pressure on them early and we can make them very uncomfortable, we will start seeing them implode.
So, I'll add 2 things real quick to what you're saying. Tennessee's averaging a little over 5 yards per carry offensively. Mississippi State's giving up about 3.9 defensively, which is around 60 to 65th in the country. So, that kind of tells you, to your point, also run the football. Also, our offensive line, to your point, Arizona State's running backs are nowhere near ours. Arizona State's offensive line is nowhere near what we have. Size-wise, talent-wise, how they're playing, any of that. Also, Mississippi State, with the opponents they've played, they've already given up 6 sacks on the season, which is bottom third in the country. We have 15 sacks on the season, which is top 10 in the country. Yep. So, to me, those 2 things right there show you the advantage that we have on both lines of the scrimmage.
Yep. And our advantage is going to get even better this Saturday because, as this comment says right here, Jackson Moy has already announced he is playing Saturday. I thought it was interesting. Tennessee put probable on their injury report, and Jackson Moy went on Instagram and said, "No, I'm playing." Yeah. Like he just eliminated that. Mississippi Ball said he's talking about Ruby. I don't know. Who knows what's happening with David Sanders? Maybe we'll see him. Dwan Morris was listed as questionable. I think we'll see him. I thought it was interesting they went ahead and listed Dramod McCoy and Ricky Gibson as out still. But 3 positives, Tyree West, Ethan Davis, and Deshaun Brame weren't even on the injury report. So all 3 of them are definitely playing. When you add back Jackson Moy and Tyree West to this defensive line, that group gets really good real fast. Let's see. Mississippi Vol said getting Moy back is huge, literally and figuratively. Slim said all the media seem to think the Vols are going to struggle. That's the same media who make the AP polls, so you probably shouldn't pay any attention to them. They have no idea what they're talking about. Brennan said to blow up the chat so that I would have problems. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Yeah, Elijah, we were actually just talking about this off air. When Mississippi State played Arizona State got down early, ran their way essentially back into the game, controlled the clock the rest of the game, and almost won. It was not a good look for Mississippi State. They were getting killed at the point of attack. Let's see.
Mississippi State also struggled with Northern Illinois this past weekend. They were only up, I think, 14-10 at halftime. Now the final ended up being, I think, 38-10, somewhere in that range.
Yeah,
But I mean, they struggled the entire first half. And to me, with Heupel and what he does in the first quarter since he's been here, Mississippi State can come out and struggle against Tennessee with Heupel because we'll put points
yeah,
up quick. I put it on X the other day. To me, Heupel is one of the best scripted play callers in all of college football. I mean, I can't count how many times since he's been there we score a touchdown on the opening drive. And if you go down on Saturday and do that against Mississippi State and kind of already put them on their heels, it goes to your point. You're going to. I feel like to your point, the penalties start coming. They start, trying to overcompensate, and I think we start exerting our will on them.
yep. Jonathan said, "Don't have to increase Evans' NIL money since I'm doing his job tonight." Only 10 UC, good to have you. Good question. Should we give our secondary some grace due to our offense producing and teams getting behind and having to throw to keep up? Or should we just be good enough that it shouldn't matter? What do you think, Jordan?
I think it's a couple of things. I think our secondary's been struggling. One, because they went into fall camp and really exited fall camp having guys that they now don't have. They obviously didn't expect to have McCoy to begin the season, but he did practice some towards the end of fall camp. They expected Ricky Gibson to be there and to be a starter, Colton Hood to be there and be a starter. Boo's situation, you kind of didn't know what was going to happen in the fall. And now you're forced into playing a true freshman in Redmond. Gibson's hurt, likely out for the rest of the year. So now Redmond's having to play a lot of snaps because behind these guys, you don't have much depth. So they're having to play a lot of snaps. So I think one of the issues we're having in the secondary is Redmond is trying to learn on the fly. Now, he's really, really good. He's really talented, very athletic, but he's also learning. He's just a freshman. You've been interchanging Boo Carter and Jalen McMurray. Boo, I didn't think really to start the year was playing very well. I think he's starting to play a little bit better, but he didn't start the year playing very well. The Syracuse game, you got up pretty good early. I think in the second half, you kind of played, back a little bit, let them throw it underneath, let the clock run. Our secondary did show a few holes in the Syracuse game. Now, to me, and I think the Georgia game, that situation, and I kind of made my thoughts known on X too, which is I thought that was a bad defensive game plan by Banks, especially with our secondary. Played a lot of man-to-man in that game, and they went after your freshman, and they pretty much torched him whenever they saw that. So I think we're still figuring things out while also mixing in a true freshman while he's trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think people also tend to forget we're down 3 of our 5 starters back there. And people always go, well, we're missing McCoy and Gibson. It's not just them. Jordan Thomas should have started at the nickel. Boo should be starting where Idris Farouk is. That was the original plan. Boo was going to bump back to safety next to Andre Turrentine so that Idris Farouk could be depth and, Caleb Beasley could be depth. And Colton Hood was able to play both corners and the nickel. So he was going to be the backup at all 3. So when those 3 guys went down, that's a pretty drastic change. I mean, it doesn't just affect your starters; it affects your 2s, it affects your 3s. Like all of a sudden, your 3s are your 2s, and that's a very different animal. So I think, we absolutely should give our secondary grace because a lot of these guys weren't supposed to be playing. Stingray said it'd be nice if our fans picked up some cowbells on the way. I saw earlier this week on Twitter, someone was saying all the Tennessee fans should bring cowbells and play them when Mississippi State's on offense, which if you're watching on TV means the cowbells would never stop the entire game. Austin's already given his prediction of who's going to stand out. He thinks Joshua Josephs is going to get 2 sacks. Um, Matt is going to be there with you, Jordan, so he's going to scream his head off. Richard, great to have you coming to us from Elizabethton tonight. Rebel Jew said AP polls are the most ridiculous thing this season. Good thing it's not the official rankings, which come out around Halloween. True statement. Mr. Osborne's going to give us a history lesson here. He said, so I went to the Vols Mississippi State game in 1990. Yes, that was 35 years ago. Which is weird for me to say that the 90s was 35 years ago. It was early September. I bring it up due to weather. It was hot. Forecast for this Saturday, high of 85 with 63% humidity, so not bad for the Vols.
Yeah, I checked the weather the other day just to be prepared to know what to bring. And at kickoff, I think it's supposed to be about 82, and by the end of the game, it's supposed to be 71. So it's going to, and again, the humidity is not going to be too bad. But I've been down here for 2 weeks, and it's not been horrible either. It's not been too hot. It's not been too humid. So I think the weather is going to be great for Saturday.
Yeah, I didn't say that. I just said Jordan was in a hotel. He's actually in Jackson, Mississippi, so he's not far from Stark Vegas. Only 10 UC said, I just wish for us to play better on the road. If I see that this week, I'll feel amazing. I want this team to feed off the booze. Jonathan, they are doing the orange jersey and the orange pant. He wanted to see him bring back the orange helmet, but they are not going that far.
I'm not sure if we'll ever see those again.
Yeah, there may have been a sacrificial burning. Elijah said, look at what Hype schemed up against the best defensive coach in America against Georgia. Those first 3 drives against Georgia were beautiful. Hype knows how to start a game fast. Yeah, there is nobody on the Mississippi State defensive staff that's going to compare to anybody on the Georgia defensive staff. That's for sure.
Speaking of that, Rustin, I like to get – I know you and I haven't talked much about this, but I like to get your opinion on what you have seen with the offense and the changes formationally, the new wrinkles they've added in, and just kind of get your opinion, because it's one thing that I criticize. I think we may have talked about it last year when I came on, either before or after the Ohio State game, and I was kind of critical of the offense needing to evolve, needing to add new things. Obviously, having, to me, a better quarterback, a more experienced quarterback is helping, but they've clearly went out there and made it a point this offseason to bring guys in to help them adapt and evolve the offense, and also being willing to do it.
I saw Kelsey Pope in a press conference the other day made the statement that they were on the plane back from Ohio State, and he said Hype looked at the whole offensive staff and said, we've got to get better. We've got to change some things. We got to add some things. We got to get better. And then he went out and did it. Going out and getting Seth Littrell, I thought was genius. You have a guy there who spent a lot of time with Mike Leach. He knows the air raid inside and out. We've seen pieces of the air raid already implemented into this. Braylon Staley's touchdown on that shallow cross that he converted into a vertical. That was an air raid play. We broke that one down on here last week. I love that they went and got Landry Jones. They talked about the fact that they got Landry to learn some more pro concepts, add some more pro concepts as far as how they use the tight ends, how they use the pistol, how it can be integrated into their system. But maybe my favorite was finding out this past week that Jim Chaney's been helping since July and no one knew.
Yeah.
Like that, and we talked about it last week on here. Jim Chaney, like, people have no idea the depth of knowledge offensively that Jim Chaney has, and his ability to scheme plays for tight ends, for backs out of the backfield, creative things in screen game. Like Jim Chaney, I said this last week, so I'm going to sound like a broken record. Sean Payton, on 2 different occasions, hired Jim Chaney to be an offensive analyst with 2 different NFL teams because he valued his opinion so highly for how he calls plays. Okay. most people regard Sean Payton as one of the greatest play callers of all time, and he viewed Jim Chaney as somebody who could make him better. Um, you know, so as soon as I found out that we had a quarterback room that has Josh Heupel, Joey Halzle, Jim Chaney, Seth Littrell, and Landry Jones in there together, I jokingly told our viewers last week, I just want to be a fly on the wall. Like I just want to go sit and listen because the level of X's and O's that are being broken down in that quarterback room are unlike anything anyone could ever fathom.
Yeah.
And so now, what's really impressive is with all those different minds, bringing all those different theories and thought processes and schemes together, somehow they have taught these kids how to run all these different things, and they've taught them all the signals for it. When you think about just the depth of the amount of stuff they're doing and the amount of hand signals they've got to have for it, that in of itself is incredibly difficult. And so these kids have engrossed all of that and they've taken all that information in. That's a level of teaching that hasn't been on Rocky Top in a very long time. I mean, that is people don't understand how impressive that is. And then to go out and actually execute it, it would be very normal for these players to have confusion from time to time because they are having a ton of information thrown at them and they don't bat an eye. Like they just go execute. And that to me has been by far the most impressive thing. Um, I think as the season progresses, especially with Ethan Davis coming back, Deson Brame coming back, we're going to see more and more 12 personnel stuff out of the pistol, more and more creative things to get the tight ends the ball. Um, the sky is the limit. I've been and kudos to Joey Aguilar. I've been amazed at how fast he has retained all that information because it's a lot.
Yeah,
And
because to
it's
your point, I mean, not only did he have to learn the base offense of what we have ran, he also had to learn all the new stuff. And he got here the end of May,
yeah,
basically, and they had to throw all this at him. And I've been a big Jim Chaney fan for a very long time.
yeah,
Big fan of his. And to your point, the receiver screens, the running back out of the backfield, we've already seen those elements through the
hmm
first 4 games be added into it. And I think, people chart it differently as far as pre-snap motion or a shift or whatever however you may chart it. But I think we've seen more pre-snap motion or shifting in the first 4 games than we did probably all of last year of all of 2023. I
yeah,
mean, it seems like we're constantly getting into a formation and shifting into something else, and we're running a lot more pro style concepts, which you hear a lot of the stuff about how this doesn't get kids prepared for the NFL. Well, we keep evolving like this and showing us the rest of the season. That's going to go out the window also.
yep. Um, so Nolan had a comment here after watching several prediction videos. A lot of people think Mississippi State is going to score more than 24 on us and could upset us. Some think we'll score in the low 40s at most. I'm kind of surprised. Yeah, I couldn't disagree with that more.
Yeah.
I don't think that's at all accurate. Slick Biker said, I've heard some say that Lebby knows our offense because he taught it to Heupel. They failed to see how our offense has evolved. Well, there's multiple problems with that statement. Um, um, he and Lebby came up through the ranks together. Lebby didn't teach him this system. If anything, it was the other way around. And actually, a couple of years ago, Jeff Lebby came to Knoxville to spend a few weeks during the summer to pick Heupel's brain about offense. So,
Yeah, Heupel was
um,
already running it at Missouri,
yeah,
and then when he got to UCF, he brought Lebby in, and it
yeah,
kind of, it evolved more, and they added more to it. But Heupel was already running that at Missouri before he ever
yeah,
had Lebby. I mean, they did kind of know each other beforehand, but as far as working and stuff together, he became OC at UCF. And yeah, he may know the offense, but as we just got done discussing, we've added more elements to it and have shown different things. And you know this, and we all know there's more elements to this, Colin. Like they've not shown everything they have put into the playbook, and they're putting stuff on tape to run stuff off of what they've already shown. So, and that's why I said earlier, I'm excited to continue to see what they have done and what they have added because, I think you and I talked about this last year also. In 21, 22, it always felt like each week you added something new that you hadn't seen yet. And now I feel like we're back to that. It feels like each week we have shown something new that we haven't seen yet. Like this past week against UAB, you showed a shovel pass. Now, granted, that was a big thing last year, but you hadn't shown it up to this point. You showed the option, which was a big thing with Joe Milton, but you hadn't shown it up to this point. You're just adding more layers and more stuff on tape for guys to prepare for.
Yep. I would also say this. Sometimes it doesn't matter if the other team knows what you're doing. It comes down to Jimmy's and Joe's, and there ain't any DBs on Mississippi State's sideline that can cover Chris Brazzell or Mike Matthews, and they don't have anybody in their front seven that can hang with our three running backs. So, I don't really care if he runs the same system. Jimmy's and Joe's, there's a lot of people who've made a living at the high school level winning state championships running 4 plays. There's wing T guys that have been wing T guys forever, and they're just bigger and stronger and faster than everybody else, and they run 4 plays and win the state championship.
And to your point, I think I brought this up before we came on too. Like, I'm kind of really big into the metrics and kind of just looking at stats and data and stuff like that. And a lot of it through 4 games has said that Mississippi State's DBs are like top in the country in all these different categories and everything else. Through 4 games, to your point, Mississippi State really hasn't played anybody. Arizona State's really bad. That's kind of, inflating some of their metrics and some of their numbers. I think we're really going to find out Saturday what's real and what's not. I know like I said, a lot of people have popped up these DBs because they look good on, PFF or other different metrics and stuff like that, but they've not really been tested. To your point, they played Levitt and he was 10 for 22, 82 yards. They've not been tested by anybody yet. They're going to get tested on Saturday. We're going to find out when looking at those metrics coming into this game, what's real and what's not.
Yep. Matt asked if Joey Aguilar has proven it to me yet. I actually said this last week. I gave him a shout out and said, yeah, I've seen what I needed to see. He went out, and again, that's a huge kudos to all those guys in the quarterback room. They fixed his issues. They taught him well. They ironed out his mechanical issues. He's not doing some of the weird decision making he's done in the past. He's staying on platform more. He's not throwing off weird angles. So yeah, they've fixed him, and kudos to him for being coachable, and kudos to them for working it out of him. In our defense, no quarterback is prepared for the NFL. The development's lacking badly around college and the league, to some extent. It's a lot of that's terminology. And, that's what really differentiates the guys who come in as a rookie and play really well in the NFL is their ability to retain information quickly because they throw just an absurd amount of information at them. Let's see here. All right, well, let's talk about who we think is going to have a big day. This Saturday, who are you expecting us to be talking about after the game?
Well, kind of going back to the point that we had to begin the show, the running game, I expect Star Thomas to have a big game. He's different. Like we do have 3 good running backs, but to me, Star Thomas is the best. He's different, and his ability to break tackles and make guys miss. I like Deshaun Bishop. I'm a Deshaun Bishop fan because of the story of him and how he's gotten to Tennessee and what he's done. I would like to see Star Thomas start getting more and more of those carries. And him be the number one back because he gives you an extra juice and he hits the hole different, and he's quicker, he's faster, his top end speed is obviously faster. So I think Star Thomas is going to have a big game on Saturday, kind of piggybacking off the point of we think the run game is going to have a big night.
Yeah, if I had to pick one person, it would definitely be one of the 3 running backs. I think they're interchangeable. I think they'll all three have, one of them's obviously going to rip a few off and have the lion's share of the yards, but I think they'll all three have big games, and then I think we'll probably see some big plays to Chris Brazzell off play action because the running backs are having a big game. So I could see us talking about any of those groups. If you had to pick somebody on the defensive side, who are you picking?
I'm going to go up, piggyback off the comment from earlier. I think Joshua Josephs is going to have a couple of sacks. To my point, their offensive line's not been great. They've given up sacks. They've given up 6 already. The competition hasn't been that great. And we've got 15 already. So I think, if I remember correctly, one of their starting offensive linemen is out, one of their
Yeah.
tackles. So that's only going to play into it more. So I think Joshua Joseph's on the defensive end.
Yeah, I would have picked one of the edges. I think it could be Joshua Josephs. It could be Dominic Bailey. Could be Tyree West. I think one of the edges will probably have. It could even be Jordan Ross. I think one of them will have a big day and probably make a few game-changing plays. Elijah is going with Jackson Moy. Having him back is going to be huge. It is. It's going to be important. And once we get Dave and Hobbs back, this defense is going to be better. They need those depth guys. Only 10 UC asked how we feel about Turrentine. Should we have him share his snaps and get other players some reps? What do we think? She doubts that would happen.
Yeah, I mean, Turrentine is to me is the case of they trust him and he understands the defense and the experience. They trust he's going to be where he's supposed to be. I think he lacks the top end athleticism, especially in the SEC. He plays bad angles sometimes because of the lack of athleticism.
Yeah.
But really, going back to your point earlier, I mean, really, you have Beasley, Turrentine, and Farouk. So, I mean, he's going to have to play a lot of the snaps. And they've been rotating all three. Now, I like Farouk. I think he's athletic. He comes down here on the run game. And I've seen him a couple of times this year, especially in the Syracuse game, play the deep ball pretty well and be able to, get some pass breakups. So I'm a big Farouk fan, but Turrentine's going to play, and he's going to get a lot of the snaps.
Yeah. And hopefully at some point Jordan Thomas gets healthy. Who knows? Maybe later in the season he'll play the last 4 games or something. Getting him back would be a huge boost. It frees up a lot of opportunities. Jonathan's going with Joey and Joshua Joseph's on defense as well as the running backs. David said shutting down their run early can put this game away quickly. I likened it, honestly, watching them. I don't know if you remember this, but 3 years ago, we went to Missouri. And in the first half, it was like we scored on every running play. And we turned around, it was 42-0. Everybody's like, what just happened? I could see this game going that way. I could see, this very undisciplined Mississippi State team making some early mistakes. We rip off a few big runs for touchdowns. All of a sudden, we turn around. It's 28-0 at the end of the first quarter. I could see this game going like that.
So, my take on the road games, which I think it was Adam Sparks with the New Signal had a really good article the other day breaking down Heupel's road record since he's been here, which was honestly a lot better than I thought, just based off some of the road woes. I think because of who we've lost to on the road kind of amplifies that some. I think we're going to know
timing of when it happens in the season does too.
Yeah, I think we're going to know pretty early in that game Saturday how it's going to go because, and I'll kind of get your opinion on this, Rustin. I feel like in those games that we have lost, early in that game, we showed signs of not really being, I don't want to say prepared, but just not ready to go. Yeah. Last year in Arkansas, you rip off a good play at the beginning, penalty right away. And you started struggling and you had penalties. Missouri 2 years ago, same way. You're constantly behind the sticks. You finally get some momentum going and Jalen Wright fumbles the football. Florida 2 years ago, same way, penalty after penalty after penalty. Usually when we lose a game like that on the road, pretty early that, oh, here we go. Because they just, I don't want to call them undisciplined. It's just lack of focus or something early in those games. And then it kind of just piles on each other as the game progresses.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can attribute that to a lot of things. Some of that is, sometimes you just come out flat. It's hard, and people are going to revolt when I say this. It's hard to get excited to play every week. It just is. You're dinged up, you're injured, the season starts dragging on. It's one reason why I don't like a 9-game SEC schedule. You need a cupcake from time to time. Like you need to have a week where you can just kind of take a break and go, hey, we can just show up and win by 40 and it's going to be okay. Because it's emotionally draining, and people watching these games have to remember these guys don't stop. Like there is no downtime. As soon as the season ends, they'll go straight in the weight room. They'll stay in the weight room until spring practice starts. As soon as spring practice ends, they'll go right back in the weight room and do all their off-season conditioning stuff. It's a full-time job, and it wears on you, and sometimes you just have down weeks.
And the
So I
biggest
think
difference, to your point, the biggest difference between college and the NFL also, right? I mean, obviously the NFL plays more games, but they can go out and sign guys. If they lose a guy to an injury or sometimes they can go sign to somebody or they can trade for
mhm,
somebody. They can fill that depth or fill that piece. College, you can't. Your roster
yeah,
is your roster. So playing a 9-game schedule, if you start having injuries rack up, you don't have the ability to go out and bring somebody in. So it hurts you more as the season progresses. And playing
yeah,
9 games, to your point, I agree. Like you need that filler game in somewhere in the season to kind of take a break and rest some guys, kind of like you did last week against UAB.
yeah,
And now, starting next year, you're not going to have that built into the schedule.
nope. Um, Mr. Osborne says, as long as we win the battle in the trenches, rush for 150 yards plus, protect Joey, get after their quarterback, and control the edge, we should win solidly. That's a lot of expectations there, Mr. Osborne. Um, Elijah agreeing with what we were just saying. I'm glad we have a bye after this week. We need to get healthy. It'll be real interesting to see after this week if we can get away injury free and then have a week off. It'll be interesting to see who shows up for that next game. We could have a pretty solid roster for that one.
And if I remember correctly with the schedule, you have the bye week, then you get Arkansas at home, which the expectation is by that point you're going to have Moy Hobbs. Rumors out there now because the On3 report, I think today or yesterday, McCoy is targeting the Arkansas game to be back. So you can get fully healthy coming out of the bye week. Then I think you play Arkansas, at Bama, at Kentucky, and then another bye week before Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So that kind of breaks the schedule up to where you have this first 4 games, bye week, 3 games, bye week, and then you're rested for the back half of the season.
And imagine a secondary where, well, imagine a front four in the interior front four that's rotating Bryson Eason, Tyree West, or Dominic Bailey, whichever one, doesn't matter. They're interchangeable. Jackson Moy and David Hobbs, with all those edges we have, and at the corners, Jermod McCoy and Colton Hood. You can do some things. Like you can dial up some stuff when you got that.
I think you may have, but I may have missed it. But I don't think you mentioned Nathan Robinson either, and he is
Right.
showing flashes. So that's more depth,
Right.
and you can start rotating guys and limiting those snaps, and they're fresher later on in the game. Like I think that's one of the things with the Georgia game. We just didn't have enough depth on the inside to be able to rotate bodies, and they just wore us down as the game went on. And you were missing McCoy, you were missing Gibson on the outside.
Yep. Matt said we need to get up early and silence their crowd. If they get an early lead, it's going to be crazy in that stadium. Good question here. David said, "Will they use Spillman more than T-Lander?" If we shut down the run and force them to throw every down, yeah, absolutely. He's much better in coverage than T-Lander is, so I could absolutely see that.
T-Lander is a really good in-the-box linebacker.
Yeah.
But if you have a team stretching you sideline to sideline or pressuring the passing game, I'd much rather have Spielman and his athleticism out there.
Yep. Only 10 UC thinks we're going to be talking about Redmond and Hood. It's possible. These are guys that are battle tested now. There's nobody on Mississippi State's receiving core that compares to what they saw at Georgia. So, it's very possible both of those guys could have a big game. Nolan said, I think one of the running backs will have a huge day. Star or Bishop, 150 all-purpose yards, multiple touchdowns. I think Boo could show out this game, be solid at the nickel, and great in the return game. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. There's always a chance Boo takes one to the house on a punt. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he's very dynamic and very dangerous there. So that could be another, part of this game that factors in as special teams. I mean, I know Gilbert missed a kick against Georgia, but overall, our special teams has been pretty solid the last handful of years under Heupel, and
Mm-hmm.
I kind of expect the same to continue.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, this is a very undisciplined Mississippi State team, and those are the teams that give up big plays in special teams. So I could absolutely see Boo housing one this weekend. Elijah was commenting on your comment about those random weird road games where we just don't show up, and he said it's not just when it happens; it's how we lose. That just boggles your mind how a team can be so inconsistent. Only 10 UC's hoping McCoy comes back next year. Don't count on it. He's got a big payday waiting on him. I knew this question was coming. Mississippi Vol said, "How do we feel about our home slate next year and the new schedule?" So you and I already talked about this offline. You can kind of give your perspective on this. I'll just say I like our three permanent opponents, especially going into a 9-game schedule. Let's just be candid. Kentucky and Vanderbilt are 2 guaranteed wins every year. So I'm happy to have two guaranteeds in a very difficult 9-game schedule.
If looking at the home slate next season, if somebody wanted to sell their season tickets, they could probably pay off a mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be, to your point, what we talked about earlier, the 9-game schedule, playing these games consistently. I mean, we're going to get beat up. And with that schedule next year, Texas, Auburn, LSU, I mean, that's some big-time opponents. There is no take a breath game in the SEC next season, especially at home. I'm glad, as a fan and a college football fan, I love the fact that we're getting Texas coming to Neyland Stadium. I love that you have LSU coming to Neyland Stadium. Auburn, Alabama will be coming to Neyland Stadium next year. I mean, that's an incredible home environment. But it's also going to be tough. It's going to be hard to win all of those, and you're just going to have to kind of figure out how it's going to lay out. I'm excited for it, but going to a 9-game schedule and playing those teams, I mean, we've kind of had easy schedules the last couple of years. So at some point it had to flip, and it flipped next year.
Jonathan said, "I'd love to see a Boo punt return this week. Hope he locks in on catching the ball before he plans to move." Only 10 UC changed their mind. We're going to be talking about the refs after the game. It has been a while. That hasn't happened yet, so they're due for one. Sam asked, "What do I think about the SEC limiting teams to 85 players versus the Big Ten at 105?" I mean, honestly, I don't think it matters. The reality is you never get remotely close to playing 85 guys. The most you're going to play on a weekend is 45 to 50, and that's even in a blowout. So, in an NIL and transfer portal era, I don't want more players. I want better players. So, the more people that are on that sideline, the more diluted our NIL budget is. And I would rather have 85 that I really want than 105 that I'm trying to figure out what to do with the 020.
So I know I may have missed something on that. From my understanding, the last thing that I saw, which is just a couple of months ago, that you could go to 105. Everybody has the opportunity to go to 105. So has something come out that the SEC is limiting it to 85, or
they're not per se mandating it, but they have strongly encouraged every school to stick to 85.
Okay.
Yeah. David said, "We've upgraded our corners tremendously since Heupel took over. Potentially, we could have 2 first-round corners in McCoy and Hood." I see McCoy as a definite first rounder. Hood is probably going to be a little depending on how long he stays and what the draft looks like the year he comes out, he could end up being a low first rounder, high second. But
So
he's got a little bit to do to get to that point.
technically he can come out this year.
Yeah.
And I saw the other day that CBS had a mock draft. I had him like getting picked 16th or 18th.
Yeah, there's no way.
But I mean, it is. I mean, we have upgraded the talent in the secondary. Especially from when they first got here. Even Redmond's already showing flashes of having the ability to do some of the things that Hood and McCoy have been able to do in their short time here. And of course McCullough, he's in the NFL doing pretty well. But yeah, McCoy and Hood, the talent that's flipped from year one to now is, especially in the secondary, is incredible.
Yep. So this was probably the most interesting news of the day. John Mateer is out for at least a month. The surgery he's going to have is on his throwing hand, which, that just because it says he'll be back in a month, sometimes hand stuff takes a long time to recover from, especially the hand that grips the ball and throws the ball. So this will be interesting. He's not going to be at full strength when we play them. And this is definitely something when he finally does come back. This is something teams are going to go after because this will not heal quickly. It'll linger.
Yeah. So I think they said a month for him potentially coming back. 5 weeks, I think, is when we play them. So basically, the week he's should be good to go. I'm going to be curious to look at their schedule. One, how many losses do they have in this time frame of him being out? And two, do they try to rush him back? Because they're in the playoff, they could potentially be in a playoff race. And if they only have 2 losses and it's kind of getting towards the back half of the schedule and they still got to play us, they still got to play some other schools, do they try to get him back to get into the playoffs?
And it's very possible that he won't play against us because let me read you what CBS Sports reported. Matt Zenitz reports that Mateer is expected to miss about a month, and Oklahoma is hopeful to have him back by the end of October. That timeline would cast doubt on his availability for October 11th against Texas, October 18th against South Carolina, and October 25th against Ole Miss. Well, if they don't have him against Texas and Ole Miss, they're losing both those games. And will make a return for November 1st against Tennessee a hopeful scenario. So they're saying they're hoping to get him back by the end of October, and we play them on November 1. So even if he does play against us, he ain't going to be 100%.
No. And to your point, the Texas and the Ole Miss thing, that's why I was saying, do they try to rush him back, knowing if they lose one more at that point, they're pretty much out of contention for a playoff spot?
Well, what this is saying is there's no way he's playing in those games. Like they're saying they're hoping to have him by the end of October, which would be us on November 1. But, we all know what hoping is in college football. Like that ain't happening. No. We've been hoping Jermod McCoy would play for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Eric said he hopes Star Thomas has a big game Saturday. Here's the question I was waiting on. Nolan asked if we think Boo will ever be used on offense. What do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think if there was any chance that was actually going to happen, he blew that by not being there to go through the things that he needed to go through this summer.
100%. I could not say that any more clearly. I agree 100%. Let's see. All right, well, let's look at projections. Holy cow, I'm way behind. All right, yeah, let's look at predictions. So what is your prediction for this Saturday?
I think Tennessee, I think they come out Saturday. We're talking about earlier in the show, I think they come out and do what they normally do, start fast, score 10, 14 points in the first quarter, put the pressure on Mississippi State. I think the defense has a really good game, slowing down their run game, forcing them to have to throw the football, which creates sack opportunities for Josephs and potential some turnover opportunities for Hood. I don't think the game's particularly close. I think we win 41-24. And I think the 24 is probably like a fourth quarter. We got the backups in. They go down and score a touchdown late. But really, we're up 41-17, 38-10, somewhere in that ballpark pretty much the whole game. And then they score in the end to kind of make it look a little bit more respectable than it was.
Yep. So what was your final score?
41-24, Tennessee.
Okay. So we're pretty close. I'm going 45-20 for all the exact same reasons, and literally the exact same reasons. I think we jump out early. I think they make a little bit of a late run at the end against the third stringers, and make it look respectable. But I'm going 45-20. Elijah said 35-17 or 35-21 Vols. David said 45-21, 1 point off from my prediction. Eric said, I understand Boo missed some practices or whatever he missed, but the coaching staff promised Boo playing time on offense. I'm afraid if they'll fall through with that, Boo transfers. Let me just tell you right now, Boo's already transferring. Like, they're just getting through the season. So any negotiations that happened in the preseason, when he pulled all those stunts, those went out the window. His job right now is to prove that he can be a quality teammate so that the next school is willing to take a chance on him. If he wants to stay and keep playing defense, that'll be available to him. But he lost all trust with this coaching staff.
You may have already talked about this before the season started, but to your point of Boo transferring, to me, he's here because he couldn't transfer in August.
Yeah.
If him not being here, going basically AWOL for the team, to me, I think he was searching for other opportunities to get out and go somewhere else. And when those opportunities did not present themselves or could not present themselves because he couldn't go anywhere, that's when he basically, lack of better word, came crawling back so he could get through this season and then hit the door come December, January.
Yep. Nothing has changed in his personal life. He's still surrounded by all the same advisors. And so long as he's being advised by those individuals, he's not staying.
No.
Slim saying 49-17 Vols. Rhonda's saying 41-24. So pretty comparable. Everybody's kind of in the same general area here. Eric's saying 42-21. Mr. Osborne thinks Mississippi State will score a little more than everybody else. He's saying 45-34. If they put 34 on the board, then we need Jermod back quickly. That means Ty Redmond had a real bad day. Nolan said 42-17. Only 10 UC agrees. She said Boo's gone. Stingray says 42-17. Mr. Osborne said Mississippi State usually plays us tough. Yes, but that's with different coaching staffs. This is not a toughness staff. This is a finesse staff. There's not much toughness on that sideline. Jonathan said 48-17. Elijah also agreed Boo's gone. Rebel Jew is going 56-24. B. Jammin going 42-10. He is not a believer in Blake Shapen. Matt thinks it's going to be tight. He thinks we're going to win 34-31. David said we all knew this was Boo's last year once Heupelman earned his way back on the team. That's true. Sam said, I would not be surprised to find out his advisors are already shopping Boo around. It never stopped. It's been happening since day one.
Yeah.
His agent is one of the shadiest people on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Boo is gone already, not officially, obviously. Have you seen after he makes a play or the team makes a play, nobody celebrates with him? Yeah, that's been caught on tape a few times. Will says – Will's an Ohio State fan. Will says 49-24 Vols. Let's see. Only 10 UC is not giving us a score. She just said we win. Clay's going 41-27. Mississippi Vol also thinks it's going to be close. He says 31-27. You're going to be there, and all these people are coming down there to see you. For once, you're going to have Vol fans in the state of Mississippi, and you're going to go with a close score? Come on.
I hope he's wrong because I don't want it to be that nervous me sitting inside that stadium.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd make for a long day listening to those cowbells.
Yep.
David said, "Boo is Colorado bound, most likely. I would not expect anywhere else, but we'll see." All right. Jordan, any last thoughts on this Saturday as you head to Stark Vegas?
No, I'm just excited to go. I've never been to Starkville, so this will be my first time there. Unfortunately, I don't have a very good road record going to games. So hopefully, which I haven't been to many. So hopefully, we come out on the winning side on Saturday. I'm excited to go see, go to a place I've never been before, see a stadium I've not seen before. I've been told to take earplugs. Everybody has told me to take earplugs, so we'll be stopping to get earplugs. I've also been told that, and this is from some Mississippi State fans, that there's nothing there, so just get in and get out because there's actually nothing there. So I'm just curious to go to the town, see what's there, see what it's like, find somewhere to eat, maybe meet some other Tennessee fans that are there. And hopefully the offense puts on a show Saturday, as we talked about, and the defense shows up and plays well, and it's kind of a good, relaxed game, and I don't have to really worry about anything. And then we get a good victory drive back home.
I was trying to find, I should have started. Mississippi Vol was actually giving food recommendations in Starkville in the chat somewhere. When you said you were looking for somewhere to eat, I was trying to find it again, but there's a lot of comments in here. All right. Well, looking forward to Saturday in Starkville. Think it's going to be a good day for the Vols. I think we're going to shock some people with how well we play. And hopefully we're going to have less cowbell. So, Jordan, thanks for joining tonight, filling in for Evan. Jordan and I were actually just he was texting me analytics this week, and we were having some conversations, and I was like, hey, Evan's not going to be here Thursday night. Why didn't Jordan come on? So appreciate you filling in and being here with us. Thank you to everybody who has been watching or listening. We appreciate all of you. It's always cool to see so many people on here. It's almost impossible to get through all these comments. There's so many of you. And I know you all love talking to each other too, so it's really hard to filter through them. But I appreciate all of you. I appreciate you dealing with me as host. Hopefully I don't screw this exit up as we go. But we will be live again this Sunday night, 9:00 Eastern. Again, Evan is gone, so it'll probably just be me. But hopefully we will be celebrating a easy Vol win down in Starkville, and hopefully we'll all have our ears and won't have ringing noises in our head. So thank you all for being with us. We look forward to seeing you Sunday, and go Vols.